Hello, this is a descriptive video of a 1/72 scale T34-85 modified for infrared remote control. So the basis of this tank is a ready to run single drive model by F-Toys, and I happen to have a very similar tank to the one I've modified, which you're seeing at the moment. This is an unmodified original model. It has a simple single motor drive, and it will move very slowly in one direction, providing some amusement. Has to be said, I don't think as much as a remote control tank. I'm not going to explain the full details of the conversion, but I will give you a guided tour of the finished item so you can see, broadly speaking, how I've done it. So I've opened up the tank now. Here you can see the way that the connections from the turret come down to this connector on the main circuit board. This is the drive for the turret. I'll just disconnect those now. The body of the tank contains the drive motors with the cut down gearboxes, the battery, which in this case fits really neatly between the two drive motors, the main circuit board, which contains the remote control electronics. I've added connectors to this. These two are for the two drive motors. This one over here is for the turret drive. Here you can see the original charging socket from the VSX remote control tank. Obviously the arrangement at the back is replaced by the gearboxes and individual axles. I've replaced the solid axle at the rear with two shorter lengths of axle, and there's a bearing on the outside, which is a top hat bearing, as there is at the drive end, and then inboard of that there's a sleeve, and inboard of that a further sleeve. This sleeve is attached to the shaft and keeps the shaft from just being pulled out. Same on both sides. You can see on this view quite clearly the perforations in the track, which are less than prototypical, to say the least, and I at first thought this was a serious problem, but actually when the tank's assembled it's hardly noticeable. You'll see that from the shots of the assembled tank and the running tank. Base of the tank don't have many features worth commenting on. This is the fixing hole. It's a single hole which attaches the two parts of the body together. Here's the charging socket. You'll see here the on-off switch, rather expertly labelled on-off. That's the original on-off switch from the VSX infrared remote control tank, and it's hardly visible on the inside, but you can see it there. Now we can see the inside of the upper hull of the tank. This is the turret rotation actuator from the original VSX remote control tank, the ring gear that it drives onto, which is attached to the turret. Here's the fixing pillar, which is how you attach the bottom and top of the tank together. The next thing to take off is the actuator. This is an obvious fixing point here. The second fixing point isn't so obvious, so I'm going to rotate over and show this small screw here. This is a fixing point of kind of desperation, really, because I couldn't figure out a way to do it. So I've gone through this bulkhead, drilled the hole, still straight through into the actuator, and this is a self-tapping screw often found in plastic assemblies. I think it might have come from the original tank even, about M1.4 or 1.6, that sort of size. Now we've taken the actuator off, you can see the full ring gear, and you can see the fixing screws for the ring gear. The ring gear is also the retaining feature of the turret, and that'll become clearer when we've dismantled it. Here's the body with the turret removed. A few things to point out. The pins, which are part of the original model, I've retained those. They align the body so that the single fixing screw is all that's needed to hold the two parts together. This fixing screw is actually epoxied to the body. Here's a turret removed from the tank. You can now see the fixing holes, 12BA screw here, 14BA screw here. You can also see the fixing holes for the ring gear. You might notice I've had a few goes at this. Putting a small hole down that wall section, a bit tricky, got it wrong a couple of times, broke off a screw in this case. I'm now actually using the middle set of holes for these two here, this hole here. You could have pretty much as many goes as you like at that and it will still work fine. Here you can see the component parts of the turret, of the top of the turret, the base, and the mantlet, gun, and circuit board. The ring gear, of course, as well. So the circuit board contains the infrared receiver that receives signals both from the remote control unit and also from other tanks when using the battle system. This couple of wires goes to a infrared LED, which is the gun, effectively the firing mechanism in the battle system, and that's pointing out through what is, I think, possibly a machine gun hole in the front of the mantlet. The original wiring, I've added some sleeving to overcome a problem with the individual wires catching in the teeth of the gear. In this case, the wires just go straight down through the middle of the gear. Top part of the turret has got a nut glued on, which is used to hold the circuit board, and in the hatch area I've put a small length of clear plastic rod. It's 1.5mm plastic rod, which is the light guide for the infrared receiver. Those of you who are more familiar with the range of VSX remote control tanks will already have noticed that there is a T34 in the range of VSX products, and T34-85, here it is. You might ask, what is this nutcase doing making another one when there's already something that does the job? Well, I admit I'm a bit of a nutcase, but the fact is that the VSX models are great from several points of view, but they aren't scale models, and as you can see from these two models side by side, the T34-85 is somewhat overscale. Its body shape is distorted to fit the mechanism in, particularly the rear slope, and the level of detail just isn't as good as on the F-Toys T34, although it has to be said that the F-Toys T34 itself doesn't have the level of detail you would get if you built a standard plastic kit. Deficiencies of the VSX tank aren't great. The T34 is the best in the range in my view, but look at the wheels, not particularly nice. If you look at moulding line details, compare the quality of what you get on the F-Toys tank, just generally a better model. Both work pretty similar way, and from a functional point of view there's nothing to choose between them. Here's the T34-85 on the battlefield. I'll just drive around a bit, show you the moves. Obviously the tank can turn on its tracks. It can go backwards and forwards. And of course the turret can rotate.